Hey, this is Danny with Metal Temple, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Alan from Primordial. So first of all, how are you doing, mate?
I'm fine, yeah, I'm alright, not too bad. Backstage in Manchester, it's alright.
As well, really, this is kind of like a small sort of like 3-day tour, but how has it been going so far in terms of touring and everything?
Yeah, we're just doing these sort of like, I guess you call them like blitzkrieg weekends or something, where you just play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday and Saturday, and go back and forward across to Europe or whatever, instead of doing the old touring model of which has you playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because most people don't want Monday, Tuesdays or Wednesdays anymore. So yeah, it's kind of, it satisfies in a way the north, you know, obviously Scotland, you've got you know, the, well, it's not really Midlands here, but it's what's the middle of the country, and then London in the south. So it's just kind of the easiest way to do things now, you know.
Well, obviously as well, you've been with the band, have been very busy with recording. Obviously, you've recorded a new album, but also you've recorded. I was check the name. It was the good Roman from Drukh. It was I guess it would be a split album. So how did that all come about? And was there any kind of issues with sending recordings to and from, or?
No, I know. Well, I don't. I mean, obviously, I only know through correspondence Roman for Drukh for quite a while, and he just explained to me the concept, which was that various bands would take an old song from their folklore or their culture, you know, history, and sort of either reinterpret it or interpret it acoustically, and release a double album of that with no, you know, with nothing, how should we say, to breathe a little bit of living history into those songs, and show that could be done without any sort of political slant or anyone taking it the wrong way or anything like this, just solely as an exercise in folk music or something like this. So of course we're, you know, I'm a big fan of Drukh and stuff, and we thought about it. It took us a while to come around to making it, but yeah, it was, we did 2 songs, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be involved in it, and you know, people seem to have taken it the right way, in the right sort of faith it was recorded in, which is purely on a musical level, and as I said, breathe some living history into some of those songs, you know.
I mean, obviously the other thing that you have released is the newest album, which is your 8th full length. It's called Where Greater Men Have Fallen. Yeah. So what was the recording process like for that?
More or less the same. We spent a little bit longer than the last one, perhaps, but it was, we went to a big studio in the middle of Ireland with a big live room. We generally try and do as much, well, live as possible. We don't use click tracks, or we don't, you know, edit and cut and paste too much on the computer. Try and have it like a band playing with this old 70s kind of approach. Well, a couple of new different things with the gear, and a few different approaches to the sound, and we used Gomez, you know, who'd worked with Cathedral and Ghost and stuff, and a ton of other bands. You know, I think every 2 albums you got to shake up the process. You got to shake up the formula and not get stuck in a rut. So that's what we did, and yeah, so far it seems to have been worked out really well, you know. So
really, yes, I'm trying to hang on 2 seconds. I mean, as well, over the course of a lot of your influences other than musical as well. I mean, obviously on the last album, I think there was one song that was inspired by Steppenwolf. And so was there any kind of thing like that in the latest album, where it was like maybe a literary kind of rather than musical influence?
Yeah, I mean, The Alchemist's Head is inspired by William Blake. Not really necessarily, you know, maybe a bit by the you know, the Marriage of Heaven and Hell, yeah. But more him as a personality, or as a character, that kind of interspersed with a sort of view of alchemy. And the court sort of, I became quite interested in the sort of historical, this sort of neo-religious scientific origins of alchemy. So yeah, there's a song about William Blake. That's probably the nearest thing I can imagine what you're talking about, yeah. But yeah, there's no particular hard and fast rules about what you end up inspiring you. I mean, it can really come from anywhere. Like The Seed of Tyrants was moved by the Arab Spring, that kind of thing. where greater men are fallen, was sort of about the movement at the end of the 19th century of the developments of a post-industrial revolution world as they began to embrace new science and new technology, which then led to the First World War, and how in the end of the 19th century they viewed the impending 20th century as perhaps the golden age of discovery for man, which in a sense it was, but also it brought about slaughter on a level no one had ever imagined before. So I took that, and then 100 years on to 2014, and you examine where we are as a civilization, and it seemed no better really. So it's the kind of origins of some of the lyrics,
Obviously, well, a lot of your music, you kind of like discuss history. You'll discuss the history of Ireland and everything, and kind of heritage. And now that's kind of, there's been a lot of resurgence of bands like obviously Winterfell and Warden's Throne who've done that kind of thing. When you originally started doing that, was that kind of a conscious decision to do that, or?
Well, I mean, we have to make one thing clear, and that is that Primordial is not about folklore or mythology, we're not like a pagan metal band in that sense. The music is about fact, not fiction. So when you sing about the coffin ships, it's a fact. Yeah. It's not, brave warrior, blah blah blah, did this in the year, blah blah blah, who none of it really existed. It's never been an interest to me. So the historical cultural context is generally been much more modern, and if you use some elements which are, say, pre-Christian or mythological, they're for the purposes of allegory. So Children of the Harvest is not necessarily about the children of Lear, it's about immigration. This kind of thing, Irish people emigrating throughout the world. So I had no interest in the band being romantic escapism. It's very much about real things here and now. And so that's a division. But yeah, the English heathen or pagan metal scene is it's great to see bands like Fen and Falak and Woden's Throne and Winterfell adopting a more serious approach, not the folk metal camp, which passes for that kind of music most of the time in Europe. It's not my thing, Do
you think there's any real reason why that's kind of, lyrically, that's kind of become the trend to talk about history rather than, say, blasphemy and Satan in black metal, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that it's a positive thing. I mean, listen, it's got to be positive to listen to a band singing about their own culture than dismembering prostitutes or fucking how much booze they can drink, or I mean, if it makes some small percentage of people think about their place in this society, or re-examine some of their history, or even take more of an interest in the elements around them in a very simplistic way, then that's got to be positive, that's got to be good. The Satan thing is different for me, because to me that's a heavy metal tradition. So that's encouraged as well for me, because it's part of the sort of it's part of the rich history of heavy metal, the identification with that sort of symbolic rebellion, which I would embrace some part of that mythologically and historically as well. But it's the sort of gore grindy stuff. I can't find any worth or meaning in that. But then again, if you're obsessed by B-movie and horror movies, and well, yeah, I guess why not?
Yeah. Well, obviously, let me see. I mean, as well, another thing that really is kind of separates you from a lot of other bands is you started really in sort of a black metal sense, and then you kind of shifted away from that, and now you basically do a lot more closer to straight up heavy metal. So is that how would you define the band as overall, the sound?
Well, I mean, I think that, like, if you listen to the new album, it's a harder, darker, blacker album than Journey's End, for example. I think that, okay, sure, the demo and some of the first album, its origins, obviously we came from the second wave of black metal, but I mean, Fuil Arsa opening the first album is like a straight rock song. I mean, if you listen to Autumn's Ablaze or something, I mean, songs like The Alchemist's Head or Seed of Tyrants are more black than those songs. I think it's a sort of relative misconception, but it's obvious that we came from second wave of black metal scene, and that's where our hearts lay closest to. But we never at any stage said, oh, we're orthodox black metal, we're this, that, the other. So, I mean, there's always been, of course, traditional heavy metal and the influences. It's just now the moments that sound like Maiden or Lizzie or are more evident to us, or Ghost of the Charnel House to me sounds a bit like Metallica or something. But why not?
Yeah.
It's what we grew up with. It's, you can't argue with Master Puppets, so it's fine and well, you know.
The next question is more like the Irish metal scene, more or less. I mean, obviously growing up, when you guys were starting in the late 80s, it was kind of, there wasn't really any metal bands rock bands apart from Thin Lizzy came out of Ireland. So how do you think that the Irish metal scene has developed since you started? Because obviously there's a lot of bands that have come out.
Yeah, I mean, it comes in waves, and now you have, for example, we're doing this interview while Malthusian are playing a new band, really excellent stuff, and you've got bands like Zom, and there's Verkalak, and there's obviously old bands like Morning Beloved and Kurokon, and there was Morphosis, and there's been bands, they're out there. There was fuck all in the 80s, man. There was nothing. There's no hidden Irish gem. There's no Irish Tormentor, no Irish Mephisto, no Irish Master's Hammer hidden in the 80s for you to find. We just didn't do that until a bunch of people who are us and our peers came and grabbed the scene by the scruff of the neck in the early 90s.
Yeah.
It just didn't exist. But, there's always new people coming along trying to take things that little bit further, and we're sort of, I suppose, proud to be sort of standard bearers for it to some degree, I
mean, as well, after this tour is over, after these UK dates are done, what have you got planned for the immediate future?
Lots of weekends and festivals, and next after this is Russia and Norway, so then after that I'm not sure, but it just keeps rolling on. We'll do weekends, a couple of weekends every month, and just see what happens,
And finally, have you got any messages for your fans at all?
No, nothing in particular. Just, if you see yourself as an individual, you should see yourself in Primordial, and if you're looking for novelty, maybe look somewhere else. I don't know. No, I don't know. That's just, we'll see you somewhere on tour, I guess.
Right, thank you so much for the interview. Look forward to seeing you as well. Thanks.